The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on this Hoth-tastic episode 454 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
Now, I gotta give credit to this person right over here who thought ahead and brought their tauntaun sleeping bag.
There's lots to tell you about that particular picture.
Nice. So it's almost like a trip to the Galactic Star Cruiser.
That's a good analogy, actually. Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
I know there is video of all you guys rolling down that hill like Luke. Please tell me that video exists. The guests that you had were there for the filming of The Empire Strikes Back. Did you ask them that one key question? What color is Han Solo's jacket?
That we all know what the internal temperature of a tauntaun is.
Lukewarm.
Are you ready?
Welcome to Neverland.
Here we go!
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets lab.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
You use a bird to write with. It's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! So where have you been this week? Tatooine? Endor? Naboo? Well, crawl out of that tauntaun and get a cup of warm blue milk because we have some exciting stories coming up about vacationing on the ice world of Hoth. But right now, we want to welcome you back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife, Sarah. Guess what, Sarah?
What?
I have an answer for you.
An answer? So
I have an answer for you, yes.
What's
I've
the
been
question?
sitting on this the whole week.
Oh.
Now I want to be able to tell you this on air.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Last week during Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics, you had posed the question, when did we first read the words all-terrain armored transports?
That's right. Like, when did it first appear anywhere on any kind of Star Wars media?
And I was thinking maybe for the toy in
Yeah.
1981, but the words were in that last issue, 47 Droid World.
So I thought maybe that's the first appearance.
Yeah, I thought, oh, you know what? That came out before the toy, so that may have been it. But you know what? You posed the question, and I couldn't sleep that night.
Oh.
So I went digging and digging and digging.
Yeah?
And I found this.
Oh, is this a novelization?
This is the Empire Strikes Back novelization, which came out April the 12th, 1980.
Oh, wow. So almost a year before.
Yes, see right here on page 45.
Okay.
Read that sentence.
With a shock of recognition, the officer identified the Empire's all-terrain armored transports. Each machine was formidably armed with cannons placed on its foreside, like the horns of some prehistoric beast. Ooh.
Yeah.
And look at this beautiful cover, you guys. Hold on, I gotta put it closer.
Okay. But then show them the page.
Because I will. But look, it's Han and Leia. I would stare at this cover and go, I wish that was me. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
In
sorry,
my teen years.
I'm the 3PO in this equation.
Okay, where is it? Okay.
45, page 45,
page 45,
right there.
Right there in that second paragraph.
In The Empire Strikes Back hardcover.
Yeah.
Right there.
Nice.
All right, now get your hands off of this.
Oh, and Meredith is the at.
The at, yes.
I love it. Yes.
So I've been sitting on that all week long.
Oh my
And now I get a
gosh.
chance to reveal it
Well,
to you
I'm so
and
happy.
the Skywalkers.
Well, yay. That's exciting. Well, Skywalkers, you may have guessed that you are here at your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, Marvel, and pop culture fandom. So it's time for a big Wookiee hug from us and a little sprinkling of pixie dust. for our family of Skywalkers. Now we are recording these wraparounds right now live on the Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel. So if you want to join in and comment and have some fun while we go live, please subscribe for notifications. Just search YouTube for Skywalking Through Neverland. And of course, we always go live usually on Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific for our new Things We Want to Share live stream every week.
More on that coming up.
Yes.
Now, in this episode, Mark Newbold from Fantha Tracks is back to tell us about his trip to Finse, Norway, where the Hoth scenes were filmed for The Empire Strikes Back. He and a bunch of fans and friends visited those hallowed grounds where wampas attacked, the Empire attacked, and Luke was stuck inside of a dead tauntaun. All this coming right up.
All right, but first, we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations. They are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to Disney parks around the world. And their service is free of charge to you. So head to smallworldvacations.com, get a no-obligation price quote for anywhere. You could even do Adventures by Disney trips, you can do cruises, and just be sure to tell them that Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
All right, now we are recording this from Long Beach, California on March the 5th, 2024.
So, Richard, what happened today in Star Wars history?
Well, a couple of big things happened.
Okay.
On this day in 1977, March 5th, 1977, 47 years ago, John Williams began conducting and recording the Star Wars score with the London Symphony Orchestra at Anvil Studios in England.
Ooh.
He did this over the period of 14 recording sessions, ending on March the 16th, 11 days.
Now,
to do all this.
Did you get this information from the Mike Matessino's liner notes?
I got this information from Today in Star Wars History.
Oh, well, yes, but originally.
The citation.
The citation.
I believe maybe so.
Yeah, it probably is, because he like documents everything in the liner notes of like even the recording dates of things, which is so fascinating to me.
And George Lucas was so happy with the recordings and the music that he was getting that he called up Steven Spielberg and said, "Here, listen to this." Kind of like very Back to the Future.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like that's very Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Since, Spielberg had recommended John Williams because Spielberg had just worked with him on Jaws.
Yeah.
He was like, I want to tell Steven how happy I am with this. And this is so incredible.
Nice.
So, not only that.
Okay.
On this date, March the 5th in 1979, 45 years ago, principal photography commences in Finse, Norway for The Empire Strikes Back.
Perfect.
How perfect is that?
And we're talking about that today as we record. Oh my gosh. Well, it just so happens that the Norway trip was planned for the beginning of March, probably to coincide. Well,
yes.
To coincide with the filming, principal photography beginning in March, and also the fact that it's kind of good weather for that in March too.
Yeah, that's when they get a lot of their big snowstorms, and boy, did they get a big snowstorm when they were filming Empire. It's always something with Mother Nature.
Yes.
So the production began with the scene where Luke was bursting out of the Wampa cave over the snowbank and rolls down the hill.
Yeah.
And Mark Newbold coming up tells us some great stories about that.
Yes.
Where they shot that and how they shot that.
And Meredith wants us to know that we all know what the internal temperature of a tauntaun is.
Lukewarm.
Those were very, very fun facts. And if you guys want more fun facts...
Thousands and thousands of fun facts.
That's right. 1,138 fun facts. Then all you have to do is go to skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book and order yourself these Today in Star Wars History Parts 1 and 2. And each day you will learn some Star Wars fun facts each day throughout the year. Even leap year.
Even leap year.
Even February 29th.
For leap year, I only have like one event that happened.
Yeah.
And that was the Phantom Menace novelization.
Okay.
And I was hoping that something else would have happened like a couple days ago on leap year.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Oh. Can't update February 29th.
Yeah, no, not, every 4 years you hope something will happen. Now, before we speak with Mark Newbold about his trip to Finse, Norway, we want to remind everyone once again to join us every Monday at 6 p.m. for
Things We Want to Share.
I'll never tire of that, which is on YouTube, like you had mentioned earlier, but just want to tell everyone because it's so much fun getting together with all the Skywalkers and sharing stuff, and people will come on and tell us what they want to share or mention things in the Sky Chat.
Yeah, and this past week, you can always watch after we've gone live. We talked about Adventureland Day at Disneyland, and Courtney Turkel shared a lot because she was in the chat and she also participated. So it was really fun.
We played some games, and now this week we're going to talk about the Star Tours editions.
Yes.
Oh, some news broke today about Star Tours, and the last sentence was, and Richard, you'll still never be the Rebel Spy. I don't know why they added that. Why did they have to rub that in?
So it's also going to be a birthday celebration for me. So definitely make sure you tune in on March 11th. And of course, we'll play some games. Maybe will the games pertain to me, Richard?
Perhaps. Yeah. They will now.
Okay, good. All right.
We'll also give an update on the Star Wars trivia event happening on May the 4th at the Venice Library right here in Los Angeles. You can find more information on that on the Facebook group. Just go to the events and you'll see more information there, and we'll give some updates on things we want to share. And we have our good buddy Dwayne in the Sky Chat, who says he doesn't want to share anything. He just wants to lurk.
Hey, we love lurkers. As long as you comment, we'd love to know if you're watching. So please comment if you can. Now, on Twitter, I guess we don't see your comments. And if we go live on Instagram, we don't see your comments. But if you're on Facebook and if you're on YouTube and Twitch, I believe, we will see your comments. Just so you know.
All right, with that, let's talk with Mark Newbold of Fantha Tracks. Last week, our good friend Mark Newbold of Fantha Tracks visited the icy plains of Hoth. He stood on the grounds where Luke Skywalker was attacked by a wampa. He walked the terrain where the great AT-AT battle took place, and he got to play in the snow with Darth Vader.
Mark is here now to tell us all about his trip to Finse, Norway, where The Empire Strikes Back was shot 45 years ago today in 1979.
Hey, Mark!
Hey, guys. How are you?
Oh, we are doing great, but we are ready to be very, very jealous and envious because of your big trip. Something that we've always wanted to do, but just never had the chance.
Yeah, so welcome back to Skywalking Through Neverland from the Hoth system.
I know. Yes, I know. It was very cold, understandably, and I was dodging wampas, but well worth the effort. You guys need to do it. It's the 50th in 5 years' time. I'm good at maths, so you should try and do that. You should try and do that one.
That's definitely a bucket list goal. Okay, 5 years from now, we will be there.
Yes.
There you go. I'll hold you to that.
Oh, please hold us to it. You know what? If you're going to swing by Long Beach and pick us up on your way, that'd be great.
Anytime I can do it, I will do it, yeah.
This is recorded, right?
Yeah,
this is recorded.
It's being
okay,
recorded.
This is legally binding, Mark. Suddenly he went into Kenny from South Park mode.
Yeah. Strangely, yes.
All right, now, make us really jealous and envious. We want to hear all of your stories. So now, how surreal was it standing on those hallowed grounds?
It's amazing. It really is amazing because we've been before. We went 6 years ago. It was different organisers, but the same hotel, the Finse 122 hotel. So, which is where they obviously the crew and the cast stayed. So the opportunity to do it again arose, and we couldn't really. It didn't take much arm twisting for us to go, because when we did it the first time, we're like, oh, we've done it now. We probably won't do that again. There's lots of places to go and things to see. So, you know, life's busy. We might not get there again. But then the chance came along again, and we've got to do this because it was so cool the first time. So to go and do it again was amazing. But the thing that struck me as much as anything else was to be there again, weirdly, felt like it did the first time. Generally, when you go back to a place, there's that familiarity. But the thing about going to Finse is that the landscape changes all the time to the degree that you can look out of the window in the morning, let's say 10 o'clock in the morning, and then go and do something, have some breakfast, grab a cup of coffee, come back and look out the window 15 minutes later, and the light hits the mountains differently. The light completely changes. The sun's obscured because the way it hits the snow. So it was so unique and so strange. So to be at the one place, the only sort of location where they filmed Empire, because everything else was Elstree pretty much, and it's Empire, which is, as your T-shirts are showing, is, you know, the most awesome film ever. It was very special, very, very special.
What organization put this event on?
It was this event was called Return to Hoth. Sorry, Hoth Strikes Back. Get it right. It was called Hoth Strikes Back. I keep getting the names mixed up. So it was called Hoth Strikes Back. So that was the group that did this particular trip, and they had planned it in collaboration with the hotel. So there's new owners of the hotel who were very accommodating to help make this all work out. And it's kind of new to them as well. It was kind of sweet, really, because you're in this place where, you know, the corridor we were on, 2 doors down, literally 2 doors down, was Kirshner's suite. Opposite was Hamill's suite. Some very enterprising fellow put the names of all the people that stayed in those rooms on the door, which was just genius. So the room we were in, Brian has still got the name placards, so I can't remember exactly all the names, but they weren't, they were crew guys, you know, but just down the corridor was all these incredible names. So they did there's a great picture there. So they did this wonderful job of giving you the feel. Well, you didn't even need the feel. You are where they were. They did film outside the door, you know, and they did a wonderful job. They really couldn't have made this film more welcome.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Sarah, go back to that first picture you had up there.
Okay.
Because just looking at the snow, it's that icy blue that you see in the film. And
Yeah.
you see that, and it's unmistakably Hoth.
That I know you know this, Sarah, because you commented when I put it on Facebook. That picture was the view out of my bedroom window. Literally, I just put the camera to the window and took a shot. That was literally the view out of the window on the first morning we got there. Was very blowy and blizzardy. We've got some video and such coming to Fantha that Brian's rapidly editing at the moment, and that really gave you a feel for how the weather changed. But the next day, all the snow, as you can see at the bottom there, to the right of the picture is one of the sort of the rooms where everybody sat down and chilled out, and then there's other rooms behind it. The snow was just drifting up, and you could totally see when they shot it why Kirsch would go, you know, we don't really need to be going out risking our necks in the snow. We can film it right here. You know, it totally shows it, and it changed every day. The landscape of it, the geography of the snow would change. Look at my hands, would change every day, and so you could totally see why they could film one setup there, and then a week later, let's say, do another setup, and it would feel like a completely different place. It was literally outside the back door.
So we're looking at this picture from your bedroom window, so you can see part of the hotel. The snow has drifted up like halfway up the hotel, and it's like a 3-story hotel. And then what we're looking at, you can see, is that the sun peeking out behind the mountain? Okay, because it almost looks like the moon, just because it's so blue and dark, but yet it's the morning. Like, what time of morning was this?
I think from memory, and I could probably check on the photograph, but I think it was around about 7, half 7, maybe something like that.
Oh,
so
okay,
it gets dark sort of probably 4 or 5 o'clock. It's starting to get darker, but in the mornings the light was just mad, and we got up really early that day. Because all the 501st guys were out in their full costumes. Blizzard Force were there from the States. You know, I think they're based in Virginia, I think, if I remember. And a lot of those guys had come over. There was there you go. There's me getting arrested. There was the Vader guy there, and they did such a great job. They really did. And they were posing for so long. So there's me, and that's not a proper X-Wing outfit. That's the Columbia ski jumpsuit thing, which I thought I've got to take that. I can't not wear that. And Paul McHugh, who was part of our team, who was with us, happened to have the helmet, and he went, "Mark, take the helmet." So it all fell into place quite nicely. But the light was incredible, just ridiculous. And there is a photograph. I don't know if we've put it out yet. We will very soon. That Paul took of the Vader that was
Oh.
honestly, if it's not a insider subscriber cover, something's going wrong somewhere. It was that good, and it was just a cold shot, just snap. It was fantastic.
You mean this one?
This
There
one?
you go. There you go. That's the one. That's it.
It looks
Well done.
photoshopped. Like it
It does.
literally looks photoshopped, and
Yeah.
yet this is Vader standing in the snow in Finse, Norway, on
Yeah.
Hoth.
Now, did
Yeah.
you guys bring a professional photographer unit? Because this looks like a publicity still.
It honestly does. The way the lights hitting the helmet and the chest plate, and just the guy was brilliant. I mean, he knew all the poses. He had it down pat. He was excellent. And that's real. And we've had quite a few people comment and say, why did, is that on a backdrop? No, that was, 8 o'clock in the morning, just loads of us snapping away. And Paul just got this absolute peach of a shot. So hats off to Paul.
Well, now down at the bottom, it says Manhattan Beach, the volume. Wait a minute. Mark, you believe.
It could be.
Yeah, judging by all the pictures we've seen, this is the real deal. And I can only imagine everyone in your group running around like they were kids, playing in the snow with their helmets on, with their stormtrooper, with their snowtrooper suits on, and Boba Fett. And I'm sure they woke up at or probably didn't get any sleep because they just wanted to run around like kids again. Look at the snowtrooper. That's fantastic.
So many people did that. Loads of people took their childhood toys. When we went the first time, Matt, who was part of our fantasy, Matt Booker took a couple of AT-ATs and snow speeders, and he had a suitcase full of toys and just set them all up. And this time he took a few bits, took some Lego stuff this time. But a lot of the guys that were there from other, other groups, there's some other UK guys there from Star Wars Forum UK, they set some of their stuff up and took pictures. So it's totally that kind of thing, and it was enough for me to get arrested and held by Darth Vader. I was quite happy about that.
That's cool.
Being born in Boston where it always snowed, I couldn't wait for that first snowfall so I could bring out my toys and set them up and take pictures.
And now you have real life action figures.
It was crazy. And they were so accommodating, these guys, because it was cold. I mean, it was like, I think the warmest it was -6. It got colder on some days. So I went out just in this Columbia thermal sort of ski thing with just a long sleeve thermal vest underneath. But that was fine. My body was fine. My feet were fine. My hands were fine in the gloves. I got some nice gloves, but I didn't put my scarf on. So all around here was like this. But those guys, there's no insulation in those things. So they really did a shift, and they were so good. They were posing for pictures. It was like a proper photo call. It was like a professional photo call. They really stepped up. They were great.
Oh, I'm sure the adrenaline is pumping so much that you don't even care. Because as a kid, you're outside playing in the snow. It's like, it's 30 below zero here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care because I want to play with my AT-AT and crash my snow speeder into a snowbank and run my little tauntaun across the snowy backyard.
Now, I do have a favorite picture, and it's this one with Vader in the middle. He's flanked by his snow troopers and what is that, a biker scout? Right there.
A snow biker scout.
Yes. Yeah. But that looks, and look at the lighting in here. It just is amazing. It's this blue, it's cold light.
It is that Empire Strikes Back icy blue hue that they gave to the film, or maybe they didn't color correct the film because it's right there, done naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is, I feel for them now, having been there a couple of times and being more conscious of the scenario this time than the first time, really. When you watch Empire now, Lucasfilm have color corrected this, color corrected that, and we did a Q&A with the guests that were there, and that was one of the things that came up, was that the light's always changing. There's no consistency in terms of that light, so you would have to color correct things to just try and get it to have a consistent feel, because in real life you're very conscious and aware. You look up, the sun's behind a cloud or not. But if you're watching a film, it feels like they've got their, like the editors have dropped the ball, or the all that sort of stuff has not been taken care of. But in real life, it's like it is. It's cloudy one minute, it's raining the next, it's dry the next. You don't think about it like that. On film, you do. So I really felt for them in that sense, because, like you say, we've got photographs in that little photo shoot that took probably an hour, I would say, and the light at the start and the light at the end completely different.
Yeah, and when you're shooting a film, you may get that perfect light to begin with, but when you do the next shot, 2 hours later, the light has totally changed. So you'd go back and recreate that light with artificial lights and big rigging equipment. Now, how many days were you guys there, and how many went on this trip?
From Fantha Tracks, there was 4 people went. Myself, Brian, Paul McEwen, and Matt Booker. So there was 4 of us from Fantha. 2 of us came up from Gatwick. So me and Matt lives about 2 hours south from me. So I drove to him, stopped at his on the night. The next morning, drove to Gatwick. That's about 2 hours. And then we flew to Norway. The other guys are Paul's in Edinburgh, Brian's way north. So they met at Aberdeen and then they flew across. Slightly shorter flight. We came in, probably landed within an hour and a half of each other. And then headed up on the train. But I mean, for the whole amount of people there in total, I don't think we got a head count, but I would say comfortably 100. It was a good number of people. To go that far, it was a good number of people.
100? Wow. So some of the photos, I thought there was like maybe a dozen or 2.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was just portions of people at
Right.
any time. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So did you lead this discussion talk on one of the evenings?
I would love to say yes, but no. Brian Cameron does a lot of the thankless tasks, the techie stuff. So and lots of stuff that if he didn't do what he does, then other things wouldn't work. So he's in that rotten sort of boring element of having to do all the techie stuff. So with this, he had the great opportunity. The organisers reached out to us via Brian to ask if we'd be a part of it to do a couple of panels. So Brian did all the research for a panel called How the Empire Struck Finse. And it was all basically what the official Lucasfilm opinion or view or memories of what happened during that shoot was. So a lot from the Alan Arnold's Once Upon a Galaxy, a lot from Rinsler's Making of Empire. But that is very much the Lucasfilm perspective. So what we did the talk. I'm saying it was Brian did the talk. I pitched in a little bit with the main talk, which went down fantastically well, I've got to say. And it's coming to Fantha very soon. And then later on in the afternoon, we did a Q&A. So our guest was Christian Berham, who was a production assistant, Harold Lystad, who was the CEO of Fox Norway at the time, and Martin Gant, who was one of at the time, a sort of junior special effects guy, was quite young at the time. But they all had such amazing recollections, especially Martin, who was like, I mean, you think back now, all his older people, he was like 27 when he was working at Empire. He was on it for 52 weeks. So he saw, and not just in Norway, of course, he was, here in the UK as well. So he saw all sorts of stuff and had fantastic recollections. But they were all very impressed with the panel. And again, hats off to Brian. But the Q&A was great because we basically said, look, guys, if there's things that are said in that panel that you think doesn't stack up, feel free to tear it to bits. Just rip it down because you were there. You can go from notations of what was expected to be there and the best recollections of certain people, but then there's the boots on the ground guys like these who were there every day for all of this stuff, and the second unit stuff, because the first unit moved on after a certain time back to Elstree. Oh. The second unit guys under Peter MacDonald, who was the second unit director, did all the Hoth battle stuff. He directed all the ground troops. All of that stuff wasn't done by Kirsch, it was done by Peter MacDonald. So just stories and stories of that. So just fascinating to speak to and be in the presence. Really, it sounds a bit highfalutin, but to be with these guys who were there 45 years ago, literally in the trenches that they had to dig out every morning because the snow drifts had just filled them in. Thankless tasks, but look at what they did.
That's the best part about doing the podcast. You can talk to people who are actually there, and you can say, yes, the stories you were reading were right, except for these 20 stories, they're all false.
Totally.
Okay, now we're getting to the bottom of things. And how many days were you guys there?
Sorry, I never answered that. So we flew out on what did we do? We flew out on the Tuesday. We went to Bergen, which is about 2.5 hours away on the same train line. So you got Oslo at one end, Bergen at the other, and Finse is sort of a third of the way. It's sort of nearer to Bergen. So it's 4 hours from Oslo, 2 hours from Bergen. We flew to Bergen, spent a couple of days there, did a beautiful fjord tour on the boat, which was fantastic, seeing the fjords for real. And then we got to Finse on the Friday. And so it was Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday sort of evening, we got the late train out. So 2.5 days, I would say, we were actually there.
Nice. So it's almost like a trip to the Galactic Star Cruiser.
That's a good analogy, actually. Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
So you have enough time to do everything you really need to.
I got to give credit to this person right over here who thought ahead and brought their tauntaun sleeping bag.
Now there's a story. Keep that picture on. There's lots to tell you about that particular picture. The lady there worked on the front desk, and she was literally a trooper. because she came out in the uniform and was walking around all the time. What you may not know or wouldn't believe if you were told it in any other circumstance is that is an actual hat. The hat and gloves are actually screen used from Empire. So they've got a little museum downstairs, and the costume is fan made essentially, but the hat and the goggles are, as you know, screen used, and she was just wearing them all the time.
Did the production staff just donate these some props or costume pieces?
Well, a lot of the people that worked on the film, a lot of the troopers were like, you know, Red Cross guys, local guys. You know, they weren't, you know, they weren't brought in. They were local Norwegian guys, and so a lot of them, to them, Star Wars was, you know, Christian, the production assistant. You know, when I asked him on stage, you know, what did you know of Star Wars when you came on to do Empire, which of course was 78. Star Wars has only just come out, really. We got it much later than you guys. So Norway got it on the 26th of December like we did in the UK. So before Empire came out of the cinema, they were talking about re-releasing Star Wars, and they realised there's no need to re-release Star Wars in Norway because it had never come off the cinema. It just kept going. So, but he was like, oh, yeah, wasn't really that interested, you know. And it was Martin Gant that said, well, you've got to remember, it's easy now in 2024 to think of Star Wars as being there forever. You know, even when the film came out and broke all the records and was the massive deal, nobody did sequels, though, did they, back then? So to do a sequel was such a risk, you know, and not expected to be what it was. And Empire was one of the first films of quality to really prove that, yeah, you can do a sequel. It doesn't have to be diluted version of the first one. It can be totally different, you know, and every bit as good. So, yeah. But that door there, they filmed a lot of stuff out of that door as well. That's one of the doors they shot out of.
Oh, is that the original door, or did the door walk away at some point and they had to replace it?
It's a good question. If you can't see, but if you sort of look to the left, as you're looking at that picture, if you look to the left, it goes up like a bank to the back of the sort of the foyer of the hotel, and that's the snowdrift where Luke kind of tumbled down. They filmed that right there. And there were other, because the hotel has had, there you go, well done. The hotel has had refit. So that where they're pointing, Christian and Martin are pointing, that's where he sort of tumbled down essentially. There were other doors on that to the sort of the right, that sort of corner of the wall. So it has been sort of refitted a little bit. And actually when you're on the floor upstairs where we were, where our room was, lovely rooms, all been redone since the last time we were there, but the same sort of footprint. There are places in the wall that had placards on, say, you know, one of them said was like Peter Szycki, one of the, I think he was a DP.
Director of photography.
Yeah. And his door no longer exists, but they just put his placard on the space where the door was. So there's all these different, you know, things that were there that aren't there anymore. But yeah, just you can tell how excited I am. It's like you're there where they filmed it. It was fantastic.
That's what I mean by hallowed grounds. That really is hallowed grounds. Now, I know, and don't prove me wrong, I know there is video of all you guys rolling down that hill like Luke. Please tell me that video exists.
I don't know whether I sent it off to the printers to get it done, but I don't know if the Kodak film survived the frost.
I think that's Mark's way of saying that didn't happen.
That's amazing. So that hill was where Luke, after the Wampa cave, he comes down and he like kind of falls.
He tumbles down that hill,
and then he looks up and goes, "Oh, look, it's Ben." Okay.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, they'd have him out in the snow, and everyone else is nice, warm and toasty cups of tea sort of thing. And there's poor Hamill with people packing snow in his eyes to make it look like he's just falling down this. You know, he really put a shift in. It wasn't easy.
So he's up staring at the hotel while he's looking at Ben.
Exactly. You could just imagine a British crew with a cup of tea in one hand and a slice of toast in the other, just waving at him, you know.
I remember when I read that in Alan Arnold's Making of Empire Strikes Back book, where the film cameras kept jamming up because it was so cold, and they thought, wait a minute, we can go inside the warm hotel while Mark Hamill's outside running around in the snow. And I read these, and I would laugh so hard as I read that the crew was in their shorts and t-shirts and drinking tea and eating crumpets, and there's Mark Hamill rolling around the snow, getting all this ice inside of his hat and going down his back, and it's like, oh, you guys, I'm gonna get you guys.
That's so funny.
You feel for him because you're not out there that long before you're suddenly going, you know, it really is quite cold, because you put your thermals on, you put your vests, you know, your shirts on, your bulk, put your hat on, you cover your ears up, put your nice thermal gloves on, and you're fine at first, and then your feet start getting a bit cold. and then you can suddenly start feeling the drafts in different places, and yeah, it's like I wouldn't want to be out here too long. So to be and I mean they in the talk that Brian did, they filmed the snowspeeder crash scene a bit further out, quite a bit further out. So they put the wreckage of the snowspeeder down, and then there's the scene where Hamill obviously is checking on Dak and then gets out before the AT-AT crushes the snowspeeder. But there were shots of Hamill rehearsing it in his classic blue, crew jacket that we all saw the guys wearing back then, because it was that cold, because what he was wearing was not thermal. It looked great, looked like it would keep you warm. No. There's Star Wars warm and there's real warm. Those blue jackets you can see they're actually quite warm. But not so much for poor old Mark.
Wow.
And you guys went to every single location spot where The Empire Strikes Back was filmed 45 years ago today. This is so perfect. And including that rock where Harrison Ford hid behind before he blasted the probe droid.
So on this trip, Paul, who hadn't come with us the first time, he's the young one, you see. He can go out skiing for 6 hours. So we let him go and ski off and see all the sights. We did it on the previous trip. So on the previous trip, we did it on Huskies. So we sat on the sled and the Huskies took us, noisy Huskies, smelly Huskies, took us all the way up this mountain, round the mountain, up to Chewy Rock and Solo Rock. And then you look across the glacier, which is where the AT-ATs landed. So we saw all of that. This time there was a bit of an expedition went out there was a shorter expedition to Solo Rock, which was about a 3-hour walk. But then to get all the way up to the top stuff was quite a bit longer. So we let Paul do that. So I know he's got pictures and footage of that coming soon. And thankfully, we could defer that one because we'd done it before. And also, we haven't got the energy. It was too far to go. But if they'd got the dogs out again, we'd have got the dogs. I mean, you saw the snowcats going around. There's the little ski track things, whatever they call them. They were zipping around all over the place. So we really should have just sort of hot rigged one of them and gone up on our own. But we didn't. But to be there, from the previous time when you're there, we took all the toys up. We set them all up on the edge of the rock. There's a picture of me leaning where Harrison Ford leant over the rock, aiming towards the Probot. So, yeah, I mean, like you say, that was the one where, like I say, you got Chewy Rock and a little bit further, it's Solar Rock. Or if I remember, it's that way around. It might be the other way around. But then when you're at the one of the two sort of locations from that scene, and you look to your right and you look across the plain and you realise, wow, yeah, you can see it. You can see it was between the two hills when you see the walkers first land and start moving towards you, that map painting. That's not me on the skis. I'd love to say it was, but it's not. Although I could say it was. It would sound cool if I mean, a nice profile picture, actually. Maybe I should say that was me. When we did it on the dogs the previous time, 6 years ago, that was hilarious because they gave you no training. They just basically stood you on the back and said, when you want it to stop, step on that plate in the middle, which was attached to, I don't know what part of the dog it was attached to, but it made them stop very quickly, I can only imagine. Or put your feet on the sled bits at the side and go. So I stood on, there was a lady in the front, never spoke to her, never didn't know her name, nothing. She was sat there quite happily as these 6 dogs just went whipping off with me on the back. And every time I put my foot on the plate, they stopped. So I thought, well, that's not going to work. We're never going to get there if we do that. And these dogs just, I don't know what they were chasing, but they just went. They were overtaking. The sleds were overtaking the guy on the speed. Eventually, the guy that ran it caught up with me and started shouting at me in Norwegian. I had no idea what he was talking about, telling me, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to overtake them. I got no idea. So anyway, we got halfway up the mountain and the dogs, basically, I think it's something to do with physics, in that the dogs went that way and I went that way, and there was a great big snow whatever bank of snow, and I ended up about 3 foot deep in it. Luckily there wasn't a rock or anything on the other side of it, so I came off in the snow. I stand up, I dust myself down, I look around. Luckily my glasses stayed on. I look up the track and there's the back end of the last dog going over the hill. I'm like, well, I ain't going to catch them up. So luckily I turned around and the guy with the speeder thing and a trailer on the back, like a solid metal trailer, said, just hop in. So I hopped in the back of that. You can imagine it's Norway, up a mountain, sitting on metal. It was like Dumb and Dumber when he gets his tongue stuck to the pole. It was horrible. Yeah. We got to the top. Luckily I got a flask for me to have a drink. That's where we did the Solo Rock stuff. And then coming down, Brian was the same. He had a similar experience with his dogs. And we said, should we just get in the back of the trailer? Yeah. And you think in your head, you're thinking, but it's all downhill, isn't it? So you're just going down the hill. And the funniest thing that's I've never forgotten was that the Wi-Fi was so good, we were able to live stream to Facebook coming down the mountain. It was like where I couldn't do that here, you know. Only in Norway, it was ridiculous. So yeah.
How long was it took with the dogs or the trailer? How long did it take?
From my best recollection, it was nowhere near as long as it wasn't that long because you've got the building, you've got the hotel, and then in front of it's basically a lake which freezes up. So a lot of people are on the lake this time. You'll see in some of the pictures there's people with the kites when they're pulling themselves along in the wind on the skis and such. So that's the frozen lake, and you sort of worked your way around the lake, and then in front of the building, or the back of the building, really, because in front of the building, it's just the train track. That's all there is, and a few houses up the hill. At the back, it's sort of a smallish mountain range, I would say. And then beyond that is where you sort of keep working your way up and eventually get to the glacier. So I would say on the dogs, it was probably only half an hour. I don't think it was probably even that. And coming back, it was literally downhill. So it was a lot quicker. You could see the hotel. And you could kind of make out the footprint of the lake, but it's completely frozen, if that makes sense. They mark it off as best they can so you don't go too far over it. The dogs wouldn't go over that. You know, it was just people sort of skiing and skating, not skating, but sort of moving across it. It was quite safe for that. But yeah, that was phenomenal. So we were so glad that we'd done that the previous time because it took the pressure off this time to think, oh, we've got to go out. There's no way I could ski for 6 hours. I could talk for 6 hours, you know that, but I couldn't ski for.
So these dogs are the unsung heroes of your trip.
They were on that last trip. They definitely were.
Although
I was going to say, no disrespect to the dogs. My goodness, they stunk. They eat raw meat, so they're not house friendly. And the noise they made. Oh my goodness, the noise they made. It's haunted me ever since.
Wow.
Well, now, did they have everyone sign waivers before you guys went out? Because there's a good chance that most of you ain't coming back.
I mean, because you never know with the weather with that part of the world, the weather's quite changeable because just a slight drop or up in temperature can mean so many different things. So if it gets a little bit warmer, they tend to have avalanches. So we actually had when we were in Bergen before we were traveling out the next day, there was an avalanche warning for the train line that we were going on. So they said, well, just, basically said, just so you're aware, you might not even get there. We might have ended up just spending the whole week in Bergen, which, don't get me wrong, was a beautiful town, but it's not why we went, But thankfully, we steamed through. It was no problem. The train was, they're very efficient in that sense over there. So there was no issues, but that's quite a common thing. So, you never quite know what's going to happen.
Yeah, didn't a avalanche prevent the Empire crew from shooting a couple of days because they were snowed in because of an avalanche? And boy, the Star Wars productions are plagued by bad weather.
Yes.
First, it's not a sandstorm in Tunisia, it's an avalanche in Norway. And Lucas is like, okay, Mother Nature, I hear you, but finally, you know what? You're not going to stop me.
And they did a press conference before it all started. And there's pictures you'll see the pictures of Carrie and Mark there. Carrie came out for a few days because she just kind of wanted to get a feel for what it was all about. And Gary Kurtz said in the press conference, basically, bring on the bad weather. We want your bad weather. Bring on the bad weather. Worst thing you could have said, because they got all the bad weather. So, which is why they shot so much near to the hotel, because they couldn't get out. There's an area of blue ice, literally blue ice, and you can kind of see it in the snow. And the way the light hits the snow, it kind of has that bluish tinge to it. You can see it in the pictures there. And they never got there, never managed to get up there. So they kind of were quite light on their feet and thought fairly quickly and were able to make some changes and location-wise and adjust things, which is why when you see that map, that classic map of Camp Kurtz and Camp, I can't think the name of the other, Camp Sherman, different camps that they used and different places that they shot. They didn't get to all of them. They only got so far on certain ones, but absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, most definitely. And now during these panels that were held, and the guests that you had were there for the filming of The Empire Strikes Back, did you ask them that one key question? What color is Han Solo's jacket?
Oh man, they tell us it's brown, and everything I see, I'm like, that's not brown.
I've always seen blue.
Yeah, that dress that came out.
I think because of the Kenner figure that came out right before Empire Strikes
Yeah.
Back was released, and
Yeah.
so we all had it in our minds. It's like when we see the Star Wars storybook, and we see the shots of Biggs, like, well, of course that scene was in the movie. And some people remember seeing that big scene in Star Wars. Now seeing that Han Solo action figure with a blue jacket,
Yeah.
that was just imprinted in our minds that, of course, it's a blue jacket. And seeing the film, the jury's out. It could go either way.
I always saw blue, and I never saw that Kenner action figure. So there you go.
All right, so then if you never saw that kind of action figure,
Yeah.
and how did you think it was blue?
To me, in that scene, like when he first comes in the hangar bay, he's coming in and he's on his tauntaun. He gets off it. And he takes off his hood, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's Han Solo." Yes, hot. But anyway, he looked blue. It was like that dark navy blue.
Oh, I agree with you. To me, it always looked blue, and it wasn't until like Celebration 4 in 2007, people were saying, "Oh, it's a brown jacket." It's like, are you out of your mind? Did you not see the film? Now, wouldn't it be funny? It was revealed that there were two jackets.
Wouldn't it? Oh wow! Oh, I'd love that.
And the reshoots, like, what color was the jacket? I don't know. Here's the brown jacket. Just put this on. No one's gonna be talking about it on a podcast 45 years later.
But didn't one of the licensees release a Han Solo?
Yes.
Something, and you could buy a brown one or a blue one. You know.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but I remember they gave you the option because in your head it's like that's blue. You know, it's not. I mean, I'm fortunate to be friends with Gus Lopez, and Gus came to one of the shows here in the UK, and he brought the Bespin, the Han Solo Bespin jacket. The actual one, we actually screen matched it to the back of an action figure picture, and there's little crease in the jacket, and apart from the fact that I on my best day, probably as a teenager, I wouldn't fit into this jacket. It was tiny. Harrison Ford was not the big guy that he thought he was back when he made Empire. He definitely wasn't. It was amazing, one, to see a screen used jacket, but then to see the blue, it was like that. Yeah, no doubt that's blue. But I would love to see that, because I'm looking at that picture there and I'm going, that's blue. That's blue. How can that not be blue? But I think they did so much color correcting, I think, on Empire, as we said earlier, to sort of get things right and consistency. I think some things maybe, you know how R2's dome always looked black before they could figure out the blue screen stuff, so now it's blue because we get it on all the matte shots. But maybe it's just one of those kind of hangovers from that. I don't know, but it'll always be blue to me. Han Solo shot first because Han Solo was the only person to shoot. That's my logic. So that's a blue jacket.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that Empire Strikes Back Bespin jacket. I love that jacket. I had a replica made of that jacket before these companies were recreating them. Yeah. And I love this jacket so much that I just wore it everywhere. And people would say, I've seen that jacket before. Where have I seen that? It's like, I don't know. I've got no idea. And a lot of times people would say, is that a Star Wars jacket? It's like, well, yes, it is. And didn't Brandon Allinger find that Han Solo jacket only a couple of years ago at a wardrobe manufacturing house in England? They were going through some stuff. It's like, wait a minute. Why is this jacket here? And luckily he grabbed it. A lot of these places that made the wardrobe, they would just get them right back again. Okay. Like, oh, we made it, so when the production is done, give it right back, and maybe we can rent it out.
Oh, yeah.
I think they said that about Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan robe as well. I think it was like almost, I don't think it was literally, but it was almost like an off-the-shelf type thing, because it was kind of generic, sort of, because they were evoking that sort of Bedouin style, I guess, that desert style. And then when they'd finished with it, it went back on the rack. So one of the Guinness robes, ended up back in just some warehouse, some clothing film warehouse in the UK somewhere, to be found however many years later. And hang on, this is Alec Guinness's robe from Star Wars. What's this doing here? Random.
Yeah, and so a little while ago, someone had found the Princess Leia ceremonial dress at the bottom of a bag in their attic.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, so they just weren't really concerned with the wardrobe thing, when they made Star Wars, like, we'll never need this again. This is not going to be worth anything. Here in Burbank, we have a big, giant props and wardrobe place called Western Costumes, and they made costumes for just about everything. And before the revolutionary internet came about, they had all this stuff, and people it wouldn't really matter what it was from. and they would just, oh, here's Urko's helmet from Planet of the Apes. Here's Davy Jones' shirt from the Monkees. Let's put it on the rack and anyone could rent it. So before the internet, when people could go, wait a minute, this stuff is worth something, people could rent it out all the time. But now, after the internet and eBay, all the stuff suddenly walked away.
Heartbreaking, really, isn't it?
It very much is, because this stuff should be in a museum. Now, when you guys did the panels, was there anything that struck you as being new information? You know, being a Star Wars fan for what 46 years now, 47 years now. Did anything come up about that was a new piece of information?
The best thing I learned was when Harrison Ford arrived on set. So originally they were going to film all his stuff back in the UK, and then they thought, no, let's just get him out here. Norway, England to Norway is no distance. Let's get him out here and film in situ and sort of do it that way. It's more authentic. It's just easier than building sets back in the UK. It's cheaper. So they flew him out. So the official story, as we learnt it, or rather, actually, I'll tell you Harrison Ford's version of the story. Harrison Ford's version of the story is that he flew out and he arrived at the airport, and somebody who couldn't speak a word of English picked him up and drove him 3 hours in the wrong direction, and then drove him 3 hours back to where he started, and then 3 hours to the hotel. And he arrived at 2 a.m. to be on set for 7:30, and they sunk a bottle of whiskey. And one of the guests was on that ride. Harold was on that drive, and he said, load of rubbish. He said, never happened. He says, we picked him up. He says, my English is good now. He says, it was good then. He says, we were with Peter MacDonald, who's the second unit director, who's English, who speaks English, who travelled with Harrison. He says, he was with us. He said, the only part of that story that's true is that, yes, we drank a bottle of whiskey. And Harrison was on set at 7:30, or set, out in the wilds at 7:30 the next morning, like a true pro. So he said, but I prefer Harrison's version of the story. He said, if I was watching a chat show, I would much rather hear Harrison's version of the story than the truth, which I just thought was fantastic. So we're going to stick with Harrison's version because it's way more interesting. But apparently, no, they didn't get lost. There were people who could speak English, and he did get there on time. But that's the thing I learned. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that's why I always love hearing it firsthand from these people, because they'll tell you what's up. Cause,
what it really is.
Yeah, and a lot of actors and such have gone on record saying, yeah, I kind of embellished that story when I was first telling it. I didn't remember it, so I kind of made something up at the time. It's like, oh no, we've been hanging on that for decades, and now it's all a lie.
And one thing that really came across was how well liked Mark Hamill was, and how he would just a lot of actors, and this was again explained in a couple of the panels. A lot of actors, they're there to do their job, but they're actors. There's the actors and there's the crew, and obviously there's the high end crew, but then the regular guys generally they go off and stick to their own, and the actors and such stick to theirs. And they all said Mark would go around to everyone's room, knock on the door, come in, have a beer, have a chat. They all said how personable he was, how chatty he was, and how invested he was. And they couldn't say enough nice things about Mark, which I thought was really sweet, because I think that comes through in the film, how invested he was, really invested in Empire, especially in Empire. I know you could argue that kind of Jedi's more Luke's film, if you like, because of what happens, but he felt really more a part of the crew really than part of the cast in these Finse scenes. So that was they all went out of their way to say what a genuinely nice guy he was, and I thought that was kind of sweet, because not that anybody wasn't, they said Harrison was very much kept to himself, was always personable and polite, but not a chatty guy. I don't think Harrison Ford's the kind of guy that would sit round with the three of us and have a chit chat about whatever, is he? It's just not him. So, and nobody held that against him. Nobody was criticising him for it, but they all said what a warm, nice guy Mark was, given that it wasn't that long after he'd had that accident, probably only a year or so after he'd had the accident and such. So, he was still probably on the mend to a degree from that. So, yeah, very, very interesting. I thought that was quite a nice touch.
It's always great when you can hear about an ambassador for fandom in the original trilogy, because other than Mark Hamill, you have Mark Hamill.
Most everyone else, it was just a job.
Just a paycheck.
So can you remind us on this panel, like, who were the special guests?
Yeah. So you had Martin Gant, who was a special effects technician. So he was quite a junior at the time. So he was part of the crew. So he, by his own description, he was saying, I was just mucking in. One of the lads, if they needed snow shoveling, I shoveled it. But he's talking himself down a little bit there. So he was quite involved in a lot of the squibs and the explosions, a lot of the technical stuff. He was very involved with the Probot. But also, if you watch any of the documentaries, when you see Luke on the tauntaun, you'll see, obviously, the head moving. When you pull back, it's kind of like a hobby horse. And underneath, with the feet on the stirrups and the head in the, his hands inside the head, was Martin moving the tauntaun around, mostly because he was, it's like, a lot of guys, how did Jeremy Bullock get the role of Boba Fett? Oh, he fit the costume. It's one of those scenarios, because, well, I did that because I was the smallest guy and I fit inside the head, So he was that guy. Christian Berham, who was a production assistant, so he did all sorts of stuff. A lot of nitty-gritty stuff as well. So when they'd bring the snowcats in, he was the guy that was making sure they were put away at night, making sure they were fueled, very much a logistics thing. So, and obviously he was local to the area, so he knew the area well, understood the weather, knew when to get everybody in when it was time, and because the blizzards would come out of nowhere. And then Harold Lystad, who was the CEO of Fox Norway, so he was the guy that was dealing a lot with Kurtz. And there was a huge, you could tell, again, that comes across in the panels when you get a chance to see them, that there was a lot of respect from Kurtz to the Norwegian team and vice versa. So that was a nice, sort of an interesting thing to hear, because you think of it all very much coming from, the UK and from the States. And then you realise, particularly for these outdoor scenes, how involved Fox Norway was. So, and they were all just so giving of their time and happy to chat with us on the stage, happy to chat with people at the bar. They couldn't really get enough of it. They were lovely people.
Now, will this panel, did you record the panel, and will it be uploaded on Fantha Tracks YouTube?
It will. The panels, as we speak, I think the Q&A is almost edited, and I think Brian's nearly finished the other two. So Harold did a panel on his own. Then me and Brian did the How Empire Struck Finse panel, and then later that day we did the Q&A with the three guests. So the Q&A, no, get it right. The panel, the audio of the panel is out on Fantha Tracks Radio now. But I would say to people, wait and watch the video, because I've watched the first edit of it, and it's really good. Not because I'm in it, ignore that. But it's a really good panel. So it's definitely worth watching it, because I think sometimes, you watch people's faces and reactions to things, and as they're reminiscing as well, because Brian did such a bang-up job of putting it all together into some sort of chronological order from literally day by day by day. And then on the evening this happened, then the next morning that happened. He worked his way through the chronology of it in a really nice way. Especially Harold, who, again, was there for all of it, was very complimentary. So hats off to Brian for such a good job. But yeah, I would say watch them rather than listen. But if you're in the car, don't watch them, because it's not clever watching videos when you're driving.
Oh, hold on. I'm going to make a note of that. Mark Newbold says.
Yeah, that's
right.
it.
I can't wait to watch this, because I love hearing new bits of information that somehow has eluded you. But then again, hearing from these people that are probably hardly ever interviewed, and they've got tons and tons of stories. Now to hear them for the first time, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah. It is, and being there as well. Actually, there's one moment where the window opened. We turned the projector off, and the window screen goes up. The screen goes up, which is like a curtain almost. The screen went up, and all you got on the video is just white comes through. It's like Ghost, just white comes through, and somebody has to come and close the curtains because the light was so bright. But for us, you can't see it on the video because all you get, with the cameras, the lens is just overwhelmed by the light. For us, we just looked out, and there's Hoth. There's the mountains, there's Hoth. So to do a panel there with those guys, was for us obviously very special. So yeah, got a few cool little moments like that.
All right, five years we're going.
Yeah.
5 years we're going.
Yeah. So is there another one planned yet? Like, when is the next fan trek to Finse?
I don't know if they've announced it yet. I don't believe they have, and I don't know where they are with organising it with the right people and with the hotel and such. But I know there's certainly intent to do at least another one before. They seem very set on wanting to do the 50th. So I would, in my head, I'm thinking, well, that's how I'm going to celebrate my 58th birthday. I'm going out for that. But for now, I think they're hoping to do more in between now and then. Whatever they do, we'll obviously talk about it on Fantha. because we were treated like kings, and they put on a great show.
Wow.
Awesome.
So where can fans get more information on this and keep up?
Yeah, obviously head to Fantha. Always head to Fantha. There's always stuff on there. But if you go to Hoth Strikes Back, the Facebook page, all the information's on there. And they're going to be regularly updating. I think that's where they'll announce news of future events on there. And it's definitely a page worth following, because not only because we've got some cool photos, as you've very kindly shown, but there's loads of great pictures out there. So just to get a feel for it, the only thing I would do is, if you're looking at the photographs on your phone, open the door to your freezer and sit in front of the freezer just to get a bit of the ambiance. That might help. But yeah, it's definitely a page worth following, because I think they've got lots of plans to do more things, and they did a great job with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I was born in a blizzard, so this is like coming home. Did the people at the hotel ever say if fans are around this kind of fan gathering, do fans come in like maybe in June or August or December? Do they just happen to drift in at other times?
They get them occasionally, and in the summer it's weird, because at this time, even now still, obviously it still looks exactly like that, but as the summer goes on, it does warm up a fair bit, not to the point where it completely defrosts. It kind of just turns all slushy. So they say, don't come in the summer. They're also, don't come in the summer. It's just slush. Don't come. It's not fun. There's not as much fun in the summer. So they always say, come in the winter or into the sort of early spring, late part of that time of the year. But they get people coming in all the time, and it's kind of sweet, because these new people who've took it over are just kind of discovering that this is a really important location, for Star Wars fans, and that you can put events like this on, and they could certainly sustain more if they wanted to. But it's kind of sweet that it's unique in that, that I think they're going to try and do it, probably once a year at this sort of time. It seems to work for everyone. I think the train line's clear. There's not many issues. It's far enough after Christmas that people aren't, you don't want to do it in January because you're just getting over New Year. It's just far enough out for that. So, I would definitely follow that Facebook page. There'll be information on there.
Imagine if anyone's going to go, they're going to go in the beginning of March, which is when when Lucasfilm went to Finse to shoot The Empire Strikes Back on March the 5th. So anyone who knows, who is going to go there is going to be a big fan and is going to know that kind of information, especially if they have a copy of Today in Star Wars History. They should know that information. Now, before we close out here, let's talk about Fantha Tracks, the daily hub of Star Wars news. And being a big part of this, Fantha Tracks, tell us what's in the news lately. What's going on?
Oh, wow. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said it's been the weirdest start to a year. Normally you get past Christmas and January's always fairly quiet, and February's just kind of gearing up towards convention season. And yet here in the UK, we had some big events in January, and there seems to have been quite a bit of news. And one of the things we focus on is, guests coming to conventions. We like to post about that so people know what's going on, and that's been really busy. So yeah, it's been a weirdly busy start to the year, which I wasn't expecting. Not that I don't ever go hunting for news if if it doesn't come to me, I'm always out there looking for it. But it's been quite busy. So it's the site's going well, and the podcasts are always busy. We're sort of gearing back into that for the year, and planning our convention trips as well. So we've got quite a few things planned for this year, and hoping to do New York again in October, fingers crossed, if that comes together. So yeah, it's a non-celebration year. It's a weird year. So it's still, what is it? Where are we now? In March, aren't we? So it's like 13 months. Well, yeah, pretty much give or take 13 months till Japan happens, and got to save for that. So it's all go.
I would say, unfortunately, the biggest news of the day is the passing of Mark Dodson, who was the voice of Salacious Crumb in Return of the Jedi, and Teak in Battle for Endor, and the Gremlins in Gremlins. Yeah. Did that come as a shock?
Yeah.
At the young age of 64.
Wow.
Died of a massive heart attack as he was going to a horror convention. Oh, as a guest, of course.
Yeah. I was really shocked. Brian Herring actually messaged me and just put Mark Dodson ! Just in a text. I was like, what's this? And just quickly went online, and there it was. And Mark was one of those people who was on we've all got a long list of people we'd love to interview, and I never got to interview Mark. It was one of those guys that just never quite landed. So, and there's been a few over the years that have been almost and not quite, much to, well, put my regret, but that's inconsequential under the circumstances. But yeah, 64 is no age. I mean, it's just so sad. And then the outpouring. I saw Mike Quinn put a lovely post on today, and a few people have been saying things, and just real shock.
Yeah. We had him on the show a couple of years ago, and he was just such a fun and funny guest. And when we had talked to him, I don't think he'd been on many shows, so all of his stories were all brand new. And to talk about hearing stories from someone who hadn't really been interviewed that much, and hearing all this new information about a film that has been the center of your life for over 40 years at that time, and here's new information. We just hung on his every word.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just on a slight aside, and not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but I do think podcasts like yourself and what we try and do at Fantha, and there's plenty of others that do it, speaking to folks like this, not that you'd ever expect Mark to have gone as young as he did, but speaking to people like this before they go, because we're all going to go, it's for future Star Wars fans who want to get interested in stuff and go, well, I wonder what that Mark Dodson guy was about. What can I find out? What are they going to come to Skywalking? Or what did they do when they filmed the Empire scenes in Finse? Well, maybe they'll come to Fantha Tracks and watch the videos. We are, without being too airy-fairy about it, we are kind of documenting some of this history, because it won't be around forever, so it's kind of, for what we do, it is kind of important. So like you say, again, it's another one where I think, why didn't I reach out and push for that one? It's too late now, but you guys spoke to him, so there is that, that document is there now. So I think it is important, whilst these people are around, to try and, like you say, just get a few words from them, just drop some knowledge on us that we'd never get anywhere else.
Yeah, I get that firsthand experience and knowledge, and I think what we do is very important. I think we should toot our own horns, because
it's a digital diary.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And
the one that really weighs on me is, I can't pronounce his last name, Richard Leparmentier.
Yeah.
Who played Admiral Mahdi in Star Wars. And when I was working at Paramount Pictures, there was a script floating around that he had written called Solano Grove. A great script. I don't know why it's never been made.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to go to a convention with that script and say, can you sign this for me? But every time I saw him, he'd have a huge horde of fans around. It's like, I'll get him later.
You probably
never
don't
ever say that.
You probably don't know this, but I used to run Richard's website. I ran his website for 3 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And I always wanted him to make. He'd done the script. It was the Admiral Motti version of Apocalypse Now, called Motti Now, and we were trying to get it turned into like an animated thing. And he got loads of audio done. He got Jeremy Bullock had done a bit, and Ken Colley had done a bit. Got all sorts of folks doing the audio for it, and it never quite came together before he passed. And it's like, that's 11 years ago since Richard went. But he was a character.
He reprised his role in a Star Wars video game commercial with Clint Howard. What's that thing that we got? The
Battlefront, or
on Wii on
Disney Infinity?
It was. Oh, you know what?
Wasn't Star Wars Connect? Was it? Was it?
I think that's it. Yes,
it.
I think that's it. Yes. And there's a brief shot of him in his outfit. It's like, wait a minute, was that he got like 3/10 of a second on screen?
Oh no!
They did an advert here in the UK for throat lozenges, tunes, and they did this brilliant advert where they recreated the Death Star boardroom. They had the shots of the Star Destroyer flying towards the whole bit from the original film, the Vader breathing, everything was there, and an actor who looked a bit like Richard doing the Motti thing, where Darth Vader, and he should have had tunes, and they did this whole skit. And I remember watching that with Richard, and Richard looked at me and he went, I won't swear like he did, but why didn't they phone me? I would have done that. And he was quite willing to go back and spoof himself, so he was definitely up for having a laugh.
Oh
awesome.
Man,
that would have been fun.
Opportunity lost. I've always been so impressed, but with Fantha Tracks, every day there's so much new information. Now, do you and the crew just comb through articles and StarWars.com and everything you can for your stories? How are you so up to date? I've always been so impressed.
Well, I say this often. I've got a very understanding wife. That's a good start. And I work weird hours. So like today, I was up at like 4 o'clock, but I was back at 2 o'clock, and I'm not up until 5 tomorrow. So I won't go to bed till 11. So after we've finished now, what time is it for me now? 8 o'clock for me now. So I'll have another couple of 3 hours just working away at it. So yeah, we've got a whole bunch of the guys will be constantly looking for news bits. So we've got like a news chat thread, and I'll pull news from there and find relevant bits, like you say, you mentioned StarWars.com, there's always interesting stuff on there, and just pull from different places. And there's like regular things that we do on there. So yeah, it's just pulling news from different places really, and keeping an eye on what other people are catching, because we don't catch everything. Sometimes other sites will catch it, and we'll hop around there. But yeah, I think most days there's 6 or 7 pieces go on the site, plus the socials, plus the pods or videos or whatever. So we are fairly busy.
Yeah, it must really take a village if you're keeping an eye on people's social media, because that is updated like every 0.3 of a second.
Yeah,
no kidding.
It's a lot of work you guys do.
Yeah.
It's good fun though. It's worth it. It's worth the effort.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, after being a fan of these past few decades, and now you get to live in that world and make it pretty much your I don't want to say a job, but what's higher than a job, higher than a career? That's the way of life, and gets to pay the bills.
It helps a little bit. It's definitely it's gone past being a hobby now. It's kind of part of the daily thing. So
yes,
yeah.
All right. Well, where can people find you, Mark, if they want to reach out, and also Fantha Tracks on social media?
If you want to find me, you can find me on I think on, let me get it right now, on Threads, on Twitter, and on Facebook. No, not Facebook. Threads and Twitter and Instagram. That's it. At Prefect, not perfect. Prefect_timing. So that's me. And I'm on Facebook. Just look for Mark Newbold. And in Fantha Tracks, we're at Fantha Tracks everywhere. Pretty much everywhere. Probably on MySpace. So we're all over the shop.
And if we can get your pager number, what is that?
632.
Can you spell that?
Yes.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming on and sharing these stories. It makes us very excited about visiting Finse, Norway ourselves in 5 years. And thanks so much for keeping up with what you do in Star Wars and Star Wars Daily News. Now, go ahead and take a nap. You deserve it.
I'm actually sitting on my bed. I've got a pillow here somewhere. So yeah, maybe I will. There you go.
Oh, and we lost Mark.
This is Gary Kurtz, the producer of Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. I'm celebrating the 40th anniversary of the original Star Wars on Skywalking Through Neverland.
Shout-outs, Skywalker shout-outs. Which Skywalkers get props from here in Neverland? Who has tweeted out? Shout-out. Who has photobombed? Shout-out. Who has shared a post? Shout-out.
Every month, we pay special tribute to the Skywalking Force because you are why we can continue doing this for 11 years, Skywalkers.
We'll be celebrating our 11th year in 6 months.
Okay.
We'll be celebrating our 11th anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
10.5 years.
Wow, yes, 10 and a half years. It's our half birthday. That's so cute. I love it. Okay, so without further ado, every month we list your names because you are special. So thank you so much to Anthony Kakias,
Blessed Cheesemaker,
Bryn McKinnon,
Carl Fox,
Chickafent,
Christopher Marino,
Courtney Turkel,
Dale Erdman,
Dan Boris,
Darren Irvine,
Dave Kerwin,
Don Glover,
Derek Beebe,
Garrett Sessions,
Glenn Stein,
Jennifer Cole,
Jeremy and Heather Hunt,
Peter and Norma Heitman,
Reynold Gobey,
Scott Carmichael,
Scott Hume,
Terry Lee,
Wesley Meecombs,
Wynn Patterson,
John Liang,
John Zoncanaro,
Julie Caruana,
Julie Gildersleeve,
Cato Ryder,
Kelly Turkel,
Laura Bryce,
Leanne Nelson,
Meredith Duckworth,
Michael Corbett,
Michael Knipp,
Mike Ward,
Nancy Steinman,
Patrick Pine,
Patty Hammond,
Patty Nazarian,
And that is everyone.
All right.
Thank you, Skywalkers. I know they were a little out of order.
A couple of new Skywalkers this time around.
Yeah. 2 or 3, actually. So thank you, Skywalkers.
So thank you very, very, very much. And all that Patreon support goes to new microphones, our new microphones we have when we do remote segments, and for the Libsyn posting.
Oh yeah, Libsyn every month, and our website. You know, it every little bit really helps.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you, Skywalker, so much, and you in turn are getting entertainment every week on a weekly basis. So we hope you enjoy that, and we hope you enjoy our content.
We hope you feel your dollars are going to a good place.
Yes. All right. Well, we also have some more Skywalker shoutouts this week. First of all, I want to announce, and this was a surprise today. So the Halloween half marathon that we've been talking about, the Halloween half marathon weekend, I was never able to get in to the 10K or the half marathon at all when it was first available. Well, you can sign up for text alerts, and I signed up, and today I got an alert, and I've been getting alerts like all month and been trying to get them. But today I got in to the Halloween half marathon.
Woohoo!
So I'm committed, you guys. I'm committed to 13.1 miles now, which I'm a little scared of. I've done it before, but it's been like 10 years. But yeah, so I'm committed, but I'm excited because
yes, you should be committed.
The Halloween half marathon is the Sanderson sisters, and most especially it's Minnie and Daisy and Clarabelle. So as dressed up as the Winifred Sanderson sisters. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
And I'll be excited to cheer from you through our social media platforms.
Yeah. So that's happening September 8th. So yeah, come and cheer us on. Or if you're running yourself, let me know. All right. And we also have an email that came in.
Yeah, let's go ahead and share this.
Okay.
This was regarding our Universal versus Disneyland episode. And this email comes in from Brian Babcock, and he writes, I used to live in Koreatown. Now I live close to you in Carson. Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, nice.
That's very close to us. And when I lived there, I would go to Universal once every 2 months and Disneyland once a month. Wow. I do love how parking is closer to the park at Universal, and I also love how I could take the metro to Universal from Koreatown.
We never talked about that, like transportation.
Yeah, hop, skip, and a jump.
That's a good one. And the fact that the metro does go like right across the street to Universal is a big plus for that.
Wow, we need to update.
Yeah.
Update our notes. That is huge.
That's a big tick in Universals.
All right. Brian continues by saying, the main reason why, when I lived so close to Universal, I went to Disney more often is because there is so much more to do at Disneyland. You got a point there.
Yeah.
Universal has so few rides that if I go for a rope drop, I can ride every ride that I can fit in by noon. Mm-hmm. If I don't go for rope drop, the lines are so long that it will take me all day.
That's true.
Unless you get the VIP pass.
Yeah.
One category where Universal wins over Disney is the City Walk versus Downtown Disney. Mm-hmm. When I lived in Koreatown, I had AMC movie passes, and the closest AMC theater was City Walk. I would go there for dinner and a movie and not enter the theme park. I think I've only done Downtown Disney only one time. City Walk has more food choices and I think better quality. I hope to catch up with the rest of your shows this week.
Nice. Well, thanks, Brian. You bring up some good points.
Yeah, you know what? I used to do the same thing. Every Sunday night after a big long weekend of work, I would go to City Walk, go to the movies, and enjoy the nightlife down there.
Yeah.
And by nightlife, I mean like the fun shops, which there are no more fun shops down there anymore. They're all restaurants. How many food establishments do you need?
A lot, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But I do miss the theater in Downtown Disney. I really do. That was a nice theater because it wasn't busy at that 7 p.m. time because people were still at the parks. It got busy at the midnight shows because people were done with the parks, and if they still wanted to hang out, they're like, let's go see a movie.
And they were so tired they couldn't text.
Yeah, that too.
So we did enjoy that theater.
I did. I remember seeing Pirates of the Caribbean there, the very first one, and that was an awesome theater to see it at because it's about the Disney Parks ride, which is right there. So, Brian, we want to thank you so much for writing in. And if anyone wants to send in their emails, please do. You can do to share@skywalkingthrough-neverland.com.
Well, that wraps up episode 454 of Skywalking Through Neverland. We want to thank Mark Newbold for coming on the show and making us really jealous with all his Hoth stories. We'll be there in 5 years. And we want to thank all you Skywalkers for checking us out when we're recording live and commenting in the Sky Chat. Thank you so very much.
Are you interested in our books? Are you interested in nuggets of Star Wars history every single day? You can get autographed copies of Today in Star Wars History, parts 1 and 2, and our other books available now at skywalkingthrough-neverland.com/book. And if you want to support us through the Skywalking Force, well, that is our Patreon, Skywalkers. And you guys have access to bonus content in the form of our discussions on the latest Disney Plus shows. Right now, we are doing discussions on The Bad Batch. Yeah, and I will be posting the Bad Batch discussion that we had last week to the Skywalking Force. So I'll be doing that in the next day.
Yeah, since this is going to be coming onto our busy season, we'll do a discussion for every story arc.
Yeah.
Instead of every episode.
Yeah, that's true. All right, and bonus content begins at only $5 a month, so you can head to theskywalkingforce.com, have a look at those options, and once again, you also get shout-outs every month on our episodes, so we want to thank you so much, those of you who are part of the Skywalking Force.
Now, we also want to thank our sponsor, Small World Vacations, for their continued support. Thinking of a trip to a Disney park? We can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today. Their vacation planning service is free of charge, so check it out and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Okay, Skywalkers, get ready. Get ready.
Now, we are part of the Skywalking Network. Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes,
the Max Effects Podcast,
the Neverland Clubhouse,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
Star Warsologies,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and
Today in Star Wars History.
You can find us on social media most everywhere at Skywalking Pod, and also on Facebook and YouTube, just search Skywalking Through Neverland. And you can email us like Brian did at share@skywalkingthrough-neverland.com.
Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And
always remember,
Neverland on Alderaan. And never eat the yellow snow in Finse, Norway.
Or anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.